Guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Cameron Talks Football. Match reaction, Borussia Dortmund 2, Newcastle 0. And Borussia Dortmund have beaten Newcastle home and away in the Champions League this season. Unbelievable. I thought Newcastle would win the home game. They didn't. Dortmund won that in brilliant fashion. And they've won today's game as well. At the Signal, Iduna Park. In my opinion, which was relatively comfortable for Borussia Dortmund tonight, if I'm being honest. I just don't think Newcastle turned up, and I was saying in the watch along I did, it was a must-win game for both teams. Must-win game. Dortmund are experienced in the Champions League, very experienced. Newcastle are not. So this is their third season in the Champions League for donkeys. Dortmund know what to do and how to get the win, and they did that. They did that this evening. That puts Dortmund top of Group F, the group of death. Is what everyone was saying when it got drawn, and it is the group of death. Let's be honest. PSG Milan is tonight at 8 PM. If PSG win that game, they go top. But if AC Milan win, which could happen, it's at the San Siro. If AC Milan win, they go above Newcastle and put Newcastle bottom of this Champions League group. Who would have seen that coming? Especially after Newcastle battered PSG 4-1 at St James's Park. Who would have seen, within the space of 2 games, Newcastle go bottom? It's crazy. And I think Milan will have a lot of focus on winning tonight's game, because I think if Milan don't win tonight, they're out, to be honest. That's how big I see that Milan PSG game. But we're not talking about that game. We're talking about Dortmund, Newcastle. And yeah, I just don't think Newcastle turned up. I think it was quite a lethargic performance from Newcastle, and you thought they would have been on a high, after beating Arsenal, after beating Manchester United, on good form. Not tonight. I think a few of the starting 11 for Newcastle was very questionable, in my opinion. Starting Livramento and Lewis Hall was completely the wrong move. Almiron and Gordon, who, in my opinion, are probably Newcastle's 2 best players on the bench, and they had to come on at half time, and you were already losing, and you think if they started the game, they may not have been losing, but they didn't start him, and I think Eddie Howe was to take some blame for that, for not starting them 2, because I think if you start them 2, it's a completely different game. And Livramento and Lewis Hall, just very inexperienced players, not just in the Champions League, but in football in general, in my opinion. They haven't played many games competitively for Newcastle, or, previously with, I think, Southampton and Chelsea. So that was a strange move by Eddie Howe. But, I think, take nothing away from Borussia Dortmund, they're not going to win the Champions League, I can guarantee you it. They're not going to win it, but, they've shown that they've beaten Newcastle home and away, which is, it's hard to do, especially away from home. It's very hard. And, I think that win for Dortmund is going to give so much confidence in them getting out of the group. Many people said to me that Newcastle will get past this group, and I said no. And I think they have a real challenge now, Newcastle, to get out of this group. I expect them to beat AC Milan at home, but PSG away, yes, I know they battered them at St James's Park, but the players were just playing on the atmosphere. It'll be a completely different game at the Parc des Princes, and expect PSG to win that game. But yeah, shocking from Newcastle it was tonight, in my opinion. Didn't show up, didn't play well. I think they let the fans down big time. I think the fans would have been expecting something, and they just didn't see anything. But let's talk about the goals. Borussia Dortmund getting off to a 1-0 lead in the 25th minute. I think it was around that time. Fulkrug with the goal. Really good play between Fulkrug and Sabitzer. I think Sabitzer does a little flick to Fulkrug, who heads it back to Sabitzer. Lewis Hall, I mean, doesn't really know where he is. Lewis Hall Sabitzer loses the ball. Sabitzer crosses it in, and Fulkrug's there in the 6-yard box, like any good striker should be, just waiting for the ball to come to him, and it does come to him, and it's a relatively simple finish on the half volley for Fulkrug. You know, you would expect a professional footballer, especially a striker, to score that, and he does. And you know, Dortmund take a deserved 1-0 lead. You know, they had chances previously to that goal going in. Adeyemi had a good shot, and Fulkrug had another good shot saved by Pope. And then after that goal, Sabitzer had a good shot that went over the bar. I think we'd be quite disappointed with that Sabitzer, you know, knowing his quality, you know, expected it to go in. But it didn't. And then the second half begins. Subs come on for Newcastle, but it was I mean, it wasn't too late. They just weren't in the game, Newcastle. But Joel Linton. This is why he's been moved to centre mid, people. I mean, this goes in, it changes the game completely. Ball gets crossed in, I believe it's from Livramento. And Joelinton has to score. I mean, he's about, 7-8 yards out. He makes really good contact with the header, and he just puts it wide. It's a horrible miss, and that goes in. It's a different game. But that was the only chance really Newcastle had. And then in like the 75th minute, Dortmund get their second goal with Julian Brandt, who I thought, in my opinion, was man of the match today. Julian Brandt, I really think had a really good game in midfield for Dortmund. Newcastle get a free kick. It's a shocking free kick by Trippier. Doesn't beat the first man. Not sure who heads it out, but he heads it out to Adeyemi, who looks long, and Brandt's in. And Dortmund have a 2v1. And you know, when you've got a 2v1, you're always likely going to score, because you're either going to pass it or you're going to go on your own. Julian Brandt decides to go on his own, and it's a really good left-footed finish into the bottom right-hand corner. But, you know, Newcastle had to chase the game at that point. That's probably why they threw everyone forward. But a comical goal, suicidal goal for Newcastle. I mean, 75th minute, they didn't really need to throw everyone forward. You know, you do that 85th, 90th minute. You don't do it 75th minute. And that goes in. The game's completely dead and buried. But yeah, a really good performance by Borussia Dortmund, and you know, it just shows that could they be contenders? I don't think so, but it shows that they can beat, you know, good teams. But for Newcastle, you're going to struggle now, I think. I'm not sure who your next game is. I think it is PSG at the Parc des Princes, and that game becomes absolutely massive. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We do have a video coming out tomorrow. It's a start bench sell. I know it's finally coming out. But yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll catch you later.